Hey guys, trying to move through the videos as quickly as possible so we can catch up, and now we are on issue 8, which is the Frozen Granny Square. I'm going to try and move through this video quite quickly because I've got a really short time to be able to film today. So going straight into it, we're using 3 different colours of yarn, all in shades of blue, and we have got a sky blue, which is leftover yarn from issue 6, so that's obviously the one that I've already taken off the cover from because it's been used. And then with this issue we've been provided with, is it cyan? Am I saying it right? I don't know. That's B, which is this one here, and then this one here is a peacock blue. It looks like a very dark blue under these lights that I'm using. It's not, it's actually more of like a mid blue, but also more green as well. So don't be worried that you're using the wrong one when you start watching this video. I promise you it's exactly the same that you've got, it just looks very different under my lights. So we're going straight into it. We're starting with yarn A, which is the sky blue. So I've gone ahead and already made a slip knot with my yarn, and I'm going to put it on my hook and just pull that tight. We're then going to do 4 chains. So bring the yarn over the back and towards the front as always, and we've done 1, 2, 3 and 4. From here we're going to join with a slip stitch to our first chain, so remember to count back 4 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going for this first V just here, so we're going in through that one, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then just pull that loop straight through so you end up with something that looks like this. We're then going straight into round 1 where we need to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. We're now going to chain into the ring. Remember, you don't want to go into that gap there, as that is the first chain that you did when you first put your slip knot on the hook. You want to find the gap in between the 2, so if you pull them apart you will see the hole in the center there, and we're going to do 2 trebles into the ring. So we're yarning over, going in through that hole in the middle and pulling up a loop, so we've got 3 on the hook, yarning over again, pulling through 2, and then pulling through 2 again. We're going to repeat that, so yarn over, in through that center ring and pull up a loop, so you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So now it should look like you've got 3 stitches into that ring. Remember that these ones here are your first 3 chains that you did of the round, but they're done to the same height, so it looks like you've got 3 stitches here. We're now going to do 2 chains, 1 and 2, and then we're going to do 3 trebles into the ring. So 1, 2, and 3. We need to repeat that action 3 times, so we're going to chain another 2. Sorry, I just said we need to repeat that action 3 times. We need to make sure we do it 3 times. So we've done it once, we need to do it another 2 times. So it's 3 trebles into that center ring and then chain 2. And we will have ended up doing that 3 times by the time we get to the end of the round. So 1, 2, and 3, chaining 2 again, and this is the last set now. 1, 2, and 3. I'm sure you will have noticed as well that the non-working yarn I have been incorporating in the stitches, as I've explained in the other videos, so it's now going all the way around that centre just to make it more secure. Once you've done that last set of 3 stitches, we want to chain 2 again. And then the last instruction of the round is to slip stitch into the 3rd chain. Remember I said before that this stitch here isn't a stitch but is our chains that we did at the start of the round. So we've got 1 stitch, 2 stitch and 3 stitch. We're going into this one here and just slip stitching into that one, and that is the end of row 1, and you can see that we've already got a sort of square shape there already. We're now going to be going on to the cyan yarn, so we want to cut this one and fasten it off. So I fastened that one off and made sure to leave enough of a tail to weave in at the end. We're now joining the cyan yarn to any corner space. So I'm going to go in through this corner here and add my yarn onto my hook and then just pull through to the other side. From here we are going to chain 3. 1, 2 and 3. And then we're going to do 2 trebles into that corner space. One and 2. We're only going to be crocheting into the corner spaces, so from here we need to move directly into this corner over here. We're now doing another 3 trebles. 1, 2, 3, and then chaining 2, and then another 3 trebles. 1, 2, sorry, I had a bit of fluff on my hand. 3, and then we're repeating that in the next corner. 1, 2, 3, chain 2 and then another 3, 1, 2, and 3. The same in this one. 1, 2, 3. I'm going quick now because I'm sure you know by now what we're doing. 2 chains and another 3 trebles. 1, 2, 3, and now we're back to the first corner where you can see that we've done 3 trebles already and we need to make it match the others. So we're going to do another 3 trebles into this corner. 1, 2, and 3. From there, chain 2 again. And we're going to join with a slip stitch into the 3rd chain again. So remember to look at these stitches and count 1, 2, 3. So we're going into this stitch here. It won't go in. There we go. Just checking the pattern. Yep, we do need to fasten off again, and now we're going on to the darker blue. Just like we did in the last round, we're going to join the new colour into any corner space and make your slip knot and pull it through. And then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. For round 3, we need to do another 2 trebles into this space. It looks like this pattern is going to be fairly repetitive going all the way around. We then want to go into this center space where we're going to do 3 trebles into here. 1, 2, 3. My yarn's getting all tangled up. And then as normal, 3 trebles, 2 chains, 3 trebles into the corner. 2 and 3, chain 2, and then another 3 trebles. 1, 2, and 3. We then need to repeat that all the way around so it looks like that. I am going to do that off camera, and I'll meet you back to show you how to finish off the corner shortly. So just to finish off, we're going to chain 2 again. And then we're going to do a DC this time into our 3rd chain. So into this one, pull through. Now we've done a DC, and that is round 3 complete. So we're moving on to round 4, and I've done this different to the book. Purely because, and I remember people commenting about this in the groups, that they didn't ask you to fasten off certain colours, which, because this is a pattern with holes in it, it meant that you were left with ends at the back like this, and they were basically asking you, just for example, to use one colour and then to use another. So you're going to end up with like huge loops at the back like this. Now, I don't want a messy back on the back of my blanket. You know, I've been weaving all the ends in as neat as I can because I want it to look professional. Surely that's the whole point of us learning how to crochet properly, is that it looks professional. What that does mean is that we're going to have a lot of colour changes. I don't know if it's just specifically on this round or on other rounds as well, because it uses more than one colour on this round, which, you know, I'm not happy with the amount of ends that I'm going to have to weave in afterwards, but I would rather have to weave in ends and it look neat than be stuck with a load of, you know, like loops at the back of my project. So I'm doing it this way. It is completely up to you how you want to do it. If you want to look through the book and follow what they're doing, then of course you're more than welcome, but I'm telling you this is going to be the easier way. Longer way, because there's more ends to weave in, but definitely easier. So we're starting off like we did all the others with chaining 3. And then we're going to do 1 treble into this space. And this is where we are going to change colours. Now, I've not done it this way before, so I'm just as new to this as you are. So this next stitch is different because here's when we introduce the next colour. So yarn over and go through and do the beginning of the treble. So we're going to pull through those 2 until we've got 2 loops on the hook, and then we're going to get our next colour, which is the cyan, yarn B. Don't slip knot it, just loop it over the hook. Make sure you've got enough of a end to weave in. Make sure that one is tight enough on your hook there, and then just pull the other yarn through. So you've completed the stitch, but you've also changed colours as well, and we're now going to be working with the other colour. So from here we want to do 3 trebles into each of the next 2 spaces using the other colour. So 1, 2, 3, and then another 1 and 2, and we're going to change colours in this final one again. Now, what I was talking about earlier, you'll notice that I didn't fasten off the peacock blue. It's still attached here. So what they're asking us to do is literally, I'm not actually going to do a stitch here, but just as an example, they want us to essentially like bring it through a stitch like that, but we'd end up with a huge line like this at the back of our project. We don't want that. So what I'm going to do is, because that one is still attached at the moment, I'm just going to cut this one because we can then incorporate into our next stitch. So I've cut that one, it's not attached anymore from our corner space. So then I'm going to do the first part of the last treble till we've got 2 loops left on our hook again. And then we're going back to, I'm in such a mess here, there's yarn everywhere. We're going back to the peacock blue and doing exactly the same as what we've just done, pulling that one tight, looping this one over, and then just pulling that one through, and then that completes that 3rd stitch. If you can grab the yarn here on that last, on the cyan, and just pull that one a bit and just help to tighten it because you don't want it to be too loose. Make sure you're working with the working yarn now for the next stitch. Just hold it tight, it does get quite complicated. So we're going into the corner again and doing, can you see that how that's quite loose there? Do just pull on the non-working yarn just to tighten that one so it's not too loose. So I've done 1 treble, 2 trebles, and 3, chain 2, and then do another 2, 1 and 2. Now I'm just going to cut this colour here where I haven't fastened it off yet because we need to bring it back into the 3rd stitch. And now, just as we've done on the other times, yarn over and go under and pull up a loop till we've got 3 on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2, and then just try to pinch that so it doesn't come loose. And we're now, if I can stop being so tangled up with all the different colours that I've got here. Okay. We're going back to the cyan, looping that over and pulling that through this one to complete that stitch. Again, make sure to pull on the yarn of the last loop of the last colour that we've done, the peacock blue, because otherwise it will come loose. And then we're going back into doing, oh my gosh, this is so complicated. Back into doing the 3 trebles here. I'm sorry, this is way more difficult than it needs to be, and why I cannot stand doing colour changes mid-round on any project at all. I know it makes it look better, I know why they've done it, but it's just frustrating, but worth it in the end. I think maybe we'll see when we've finished. Another colour change coming up again, so we've done 1 treble and 2 treble. I need to cut the peacock yarn again from the last corner. Go until you've got your 2 loops, and then try to pinch that at the back so it doesn't come loose. So it's quite difficult once you start pulling the other colour through to be able to keep hold of it. So I'm putting this one on, pulling through, and then going straight into those corner chains. Again, look, that one's loose there, so I'm going to pull onto the non-working yarn just to tighten that one a bit. And we can go back and, you know, change that when we're weaving in all the ends. If you do see a few loose stitches, just give them a tug before you start weaving them in, because with all the colour changes on this, and where we haven't actually, you know, tied the yarn to the stitches by slip stitching them in, they are bound to come loose, unfortunately. So it might be that you do even have to knot a few of those loose bits just to make sure they stay secure. So again, we've come to the end of this. I'm just going to cut that one, because then it keeps it out my way, ready for the next colour again. Going back to the cyan. Just going in for the 3rd treble, ending up with the last 2 loops on the hook. I'm sure you've got the hang of this by now, but it's just so blimming confusing. Pull those 2 on and then go straight into your, every time you're doing this, make sure you're going onto your next stitch using your working yarn and not the end that you've cut. That's why I'm looking behind my project every time, just to make sure I've got hold of the right one. So I'm doing that first stitch every time, and then I'm going back and pulling on the 2 ends of the last colour and the one that we've just attached, just to make sure that's secure there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2, and guess what we need to do now? It's another change. So back in with the next, not yet. So going to go in and do the 3rd treble to the point we've got 2 loops. Drape this one over and pull it through, and then move on to your corner chains again. Corner chains, of course I meant corner trebles. 1, 2, I'm aware that stitch is loose. 3, just going to go back, pull on those 2 just to tighten it up. A good thing to do would be to tie those 2 together when you're getting near the end. Just tie those 2 just to secure them, and then weave your stitches in just to make sure they don't come undone. My phone just died right as I was explaining that. So, right, I'll try again. So, if I turn this over, we've got the last colour there and the new colour. What I would do, and I might as well show you while I'm here, because this is less messy than, you know, just tying them off and just cutting the yarn. I'm just pulling that one tight and then looping it again. And they are not going to come undone now because they're both tied. Now, technically, I don't like having a knot on the back of my work, but that is much better than one, having the whole project unravelling, and two, having these great big, like the book suggested, having like long loops around the back of my work. So if you just tie the ends together and then thread the ends through, hopefully it will hide the knot and be a lot better than the method that the book suggested. But we shall see. Anyway, carrying on, we've only got one more side left to do. So we've just done the 3 stitches here. So do 2 chains, and then we're going on to another colour change very shortly. Sorry, I had a bit of fluff there. So 1 treble, 2 treble. I'm just going to cut this one ahead of the colour change. So we're going back in with yarn B again, which is now getting really tangled up as it's one of those really small balls that they provide. I wish they would just make them all the same size, or actually wrap them into a skein properly, because I know I've seen a few people mention as well that it's just unravelling all over the place and it's a bit of a nightmare. I have many a time sat with the smaller balls and had to just completely untangle them because they get in such a state, it's ridiculous. So let's go on to this next colour change. So I've got my 2 loops and my next colour. I'm doing this all cack-handed because I was trying not to let the other one go. So I'm just going to go straight into making the next treble, and then I'm going to go back in and knot those 2 ends. So I've done my first treble there. I can then pull that one tight and pull this one tight, and I'm going to knot these 2 ends together just so they don't come undone. Just gives me a bit of peace of mind then that nothing's going to go wrong. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're doing another 2 before we cut the yarn again. So let's cut that one again. I dread to think what the back of my work looks like right now with all those different ends. I'm really dreading having to do this one. So back onto the peacock. I think this is the last corner. It is indeed. Let's hope there's no more colour change rounds because these are awful. Okay, so let's start this treble and then in with the other colour. Oh my gosh, this is so complicated to do with all of my equipment in front of me. Right, I'm going to get that next treble done before I knot those ends. So there, you can see it's gone quite loose again. So I'm just going to do that now before that comes undone. There we go. Oh my gosh, there's my cats are shedding. There's just white hairs everywhere. So there's 1 treble, 2 trebles, 3 trebles, and then we're going to chain 2, and it wants us to, I'm just checking the book, we are joining with a slip stitch in the 3rd chain this time. I wonder why they wanted us to join it with a different stitch in the last round, and then we're back to the slip stitch again. Strange, hey? But there we go. So this time we're going to completely fasten off. So we're going to cut this yarn and knot that one and tie it off. So I'm pulling that one through. I'm just going to tie an extra knot just to make sure it stays secure. There we go. That is the end of round 4. So I think we're all in agreement that this looks quite cool. Let's turn it over, shall we? Look at the state of that. Oh my gosh, how are we ever going to be able to thread all these ends in? That's going to take hours. What a mess. And we've not even finished the square yet. Wonderful. Loads to look forward to. But it's fine, we can do it, right, guys? Yeah, what a mess. So moving on to the next round, which is round 5. You will be very pleased to know that that is the end of the colour changes. There is no more of that. That was just the 1 round and they're not doing it again. What we're doing here though is going to be different to the book, because according to the book we've still got the B attached somewhere and it just tells you to carry on from where it is. But of course we've fastened both colours off. So we're going to go into any corner space and do the slip knot method to attach that one. Just pull it through, and as we've done for the other rounds, chain 3 and then 1 treble and another treble. We're then going to do exactly the same as the 1st and 2nd round. So 3 trebles in each space. When you get to the corner, it's 3 trebles, 2 chains, 3 trebles again. So you're just repeating what you did on the 1st and 2nd round. I'll meet you back at the end of round when you're done. So I've made it all the way to the final corner. And just like all of the other ones, we're going to do 3 trebles. And then go into our 2 chains. We're then going to go as per normal into our 3rd chain with a slip stitch, and then we're fastening off because we're changing colours again. So after that round it looks like this. Now once again there's a mistake in the book, because at the end of round 5, which we've just completed, it says join yarn B, the cyan, to any corner space to use for round 6 and round 7, but we have just used B. So if we needed to use B for this round, it wouldn't have just told us to fasten it off. If you look at the images, you can quite clearly see, let me just get the picture. You can see here that the last 2 rounds are using the lighter yarn, which is the same as the one that we used in the centre, which was yarn A, the sky blue. So you can see this is the lighter one here. I'm just going to go with what they've done by the picture. I'm also just having a look through now at the magazine instructions, at the squares. It literally says on square 12, on the photo 12, sorry, round 6 is worked in the same way as round 5 using yarn A. So yes, there is a mistake once again in the magazines. We're paying so much for this. Like, there's literally a mistake every issue. I don't understand how they're not proofread. It's like someone's writing them, making the mistake, and no one's checking it. Even as someone like my little independent self that writes their own patterns, I get at least 5 to 10 people to check my patterns before I publish them. Why can't Hachette and Disney do that? Anyway, on to the next round. So we're using the yarn A and we're joining it to any corner, just as we always do, with the 3 chains. I do believe, sorry, I was just having a look through. Yeah, as I thought, this round is exactly the same as the last round and the first 2. So 2 more trebles here. So we've got our 3 there. We're then going on and just doing, oh, this yarn splits really easily. We're just doing 3 trebles in every space. And then the standard in the corner of 3 trebles, 2 chains, 3 trebles. So exactly the same as the last round. I'm going to go all the way around and I'll meet you when you're finished. So I'm back round to the final corner, just like the other ones. 3 trebles and then 2 chains. And then we're doing a double crochet into the 3rd chain. Don't fasten off because we're using the same yarn for the next round as well. And after the end of round 6, your square will look like this. Now I know this round is a bit different. I've looked at the instructions in advance, so I will stick with you for this round. None of my usual disclaimers this time about not giving the full pattern in the video, because this pattern is different to the way it's done in the book. I have changed it up quite a lot in the method used to do it, so I'm sorry, but I've had to give you all of it to be able to go through with it, because otherwise, with the misinformation and the complicated way of doing it in the book, we just never would have been able to do it. So we're doing 2 chains for the start of round 7, and then we're doing a half treble back into the corner. So we're yarning over and going in through the gap, pulling up a loop. So we've got 3 on our hook, yarning over and pulling through all 3 loops. From here, we are doing 1 half treble in each of the next 18 stitches. So there should be 18 that takes us all the way to the end. We shall see, I guess. So in here for our first one, that's 1. Make sure you count as you go along, because you want to make sure that you've got equal going all the way around. So there's 1, that's the top of our next one for 2, and then 3. We're not doing anything in the gaps. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, ooh, 9, 10, 11. Just need to pull some yarn. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And that takes us all the way along to the next corner. In the corner, we're doing 2 half trebles, 2 chains and 2 half trebles. So 1 half treble, 2 chains, and then another 2 half trebles. So that is what you need to do going all the way around. It is 18 half trebles into the top of your stitches, and then 2 half trebles, 2 chains, 2 half trebles in your corners. When you get round to the end, I will meet you there. So I've made it back round to my final corner where we're going to do 2 half trebles, and then 2 chains. And slightly different before, it wants us to do a slip stitch into our second chain at this time. So that's this one here. And this is our last stitch. So we just need to cut that one to fasten it off. Remember to leave long enough so you've got an end to weave in. So pull that one through, and I've noticed that even though we fasten, look, it's, I don't know if you can see that, if you pull that tight, if you pull these, that will still come undone. It's not the tightest. So I've started just going back in through, pulling up a loop and pulling it through again, just to double slip stitch it, and then that does actually tend to stay secure. I've just been doing that on my past few squares. So that is it complete. Are you ready to see the back? That is horrendous. That is probably the most amount of ends that we've had to weave in so far, I think. But if we didn't have that, we'd just have random lines like that at the back of our project, which would, you'd be able to see them through the gaps. I don't want that for sure. I'd rather be weaving these ends in. So I'm going to do just a quick size check. I try as much as possible compared to my first square, because I know that one was about the right size. I haven't measured them since. And again, look at that. I don't know how I'm managing it, because I know a lot of people that have said that they've been crocheting all their lives and yet their squares are coming out different sizes. I can't explain why. I know my tension's not the best, so I don't understand it myself, but it seems to be working for me. So that is the end of this square, which is square number, I've forgotten already, square number 8, the frozen granny square. It would be really appreciated if you could like this video, leave a comment below whether you enjoyed it, whether you found it difficult, whether you found it easy. It just helps me to know then when I'm making the videos if I'm going at the right pace, if I need to slow down a bit, if I need to be crocheting every single row for you to watch, or you know, just comments like that, just so I know where I'm going right, where I'm going wrong. because obviously I want to be able to make these videos for you to learn, and whatever works for you best, I'm happy to do. So just let me know below if there's any changes you'd like me to make to the videos, and I guess I will see you in the next issue. I'm actually really enjoying crocheting right now, so I'm going to go on and start number 9 straight away. So I'll see you shortly. See you in the next one.